Hello, and welcome to Character Class. Today, today I'd like to take a closer look at life. That's right, we're back doing another one of these, uh, where I look at the spheres and whatnot for Mage the Ascension. So life is one of those spheres that a lot of people look at as being either kind of combat oriented, especially in the healing variety, or preparation. But there's other things that it can do too. It is one of those very interesting little spheres that can bleed out. All the spheres can really bleed out into other spheres, but life kind of definitely helps with that. Uh, so we're going to dive right in and take a look at the first one. The first dot in life, of course, is sensory magic, as it is with most of the spheres. Sense life is the only thing it can do. The most basic principles of life magic involve the study of living patterns and their motions. The mage starts by learning to feel the flow of life energy. From that point, the mage can sense injury or sickness, and he can feel the potency of vibrant health. Given experience, the mage can easily learn to sense nearby living creatures, determine their nature, health, sex, and age, and to sense any tears or imperfection in her own pattern. So you can do neat little things with that. Now, there's two particular life effects acquired with this. One being Life Scan. A simple attachment to a computer can search for the biofields of nearby living creatures, allowing a virtual adept to determine the locations and conditions of such targets. Although such scans require additional work and correspondence to reach over a great distance, they can be helpful in targeting friends or enemies, since the virtual adept can recognize individual patterns that have been detected and logged previously. So life is one of those spheres that tends to be aimed towards, or tends to seem to be aimed towards, like the Verbena and the Shaman and whatnot. But they don't have to be. Virtual adepts, man, computers. You can do all kinds of stuff. Super Google, if you will. Most virtual adepts also include special filter programs to cut out undesired life forms from the scan, like microscopic organisms or simple vermin, aside from technocrats. There's also Prayer of Healing Revelation. That is a celestial chorus effect. They study life magic to detect illness and injury. These disciples learn to identify flaws that indicate various diseases, injuries, poisons, and parasitic infestations in a life form's pattern. The mystic must make a perception roll when scanning the pattern. Yeah. So with sense life, you can literally find out if there are not only other living forms around you, you can find out if they're healthy. You can even, if you know enough about life, if you've learned enough about other creatures. For example, if you have scanned a werewolf before, you can identify other werewolves by scanning for life forms around you and coming across a pattern type that you recognize. Uh, as always, anything I say here can be house ruled by your ST, so you always check with your ST for if they're going to be house ruling certain spheres, which is always a possibility. But you can learn to do that. Vampires, for example, don't show up on a life scan unless house ruled otherwise. They are dead creatures. They're not living, so they don't really have life. They would definitely show up on an entropy scan, however, because they are just awash in entropy. So you can use life scan to basically be like, I scanned this person for life. They're not alive. Well, isn't that interesting? That tells me something. Little things like that you can do. With other pattern spheres, life senses allow a mage to tell not only if there are people nearby, but what they wear or carry, whether the forces and objects around them cause injury. Entropy with life tells whether they will suffer from disease or mischance and what form it will take. Yeah, entropy and life together. Ooh, fun little combinations. Uh, Second part, 2 dots in the sphere. Alter simple patterns and heal self. Because a mage's manipulation of living patterns begins with the most rudimentary ones and the ones most familiar to her. The budding life mage learns to affect sessile patterns and the ones that make up very simple creatures. She also learns to recognize her own innate patterns form to help it in the process of restoring itself. So this lets you only heal yourself. You can't heal others yet with 2 dots. And you can alter simple patterns, such as patterns over bacteria and plants. Any plant, invertebrate, algae, or fungus is within her purview, and the mage can harm or change them as she desires, perhaps shaping them to grow in certain ways or striking offending creatures dead. The mage can't totally transform them yet. Such patterns must retain their original nature, but they can be coaxed into moving, growing, and changing in certain ways. So you could, with this, you could make mushrooms, because they're fungi and plants. You can make mushrooms grow bigger. Um, you could alter a common cold bacteria to um, be less effective at making you sick. Uh, you can do little things like that, small things, invertebrates, which are like minor, I think, bugs and whatnot. You can alter them or kill them, which is could be kind of cool. Level 2 effect for killing insects that come near you or bite you. The ultimate bug spray. You can do that with 2 dots in life. Uh, 3 dots in life, you have alter self and transform simple patterns. So by the time the mage reaches a significant understanding of life, she unlocks the key to transformation, the means to turn a life pattern away from its original nature. Because with the second dot, anything that you are altering has to retain the original nature. You could not take an insect that flew and breathed oxygen or subsisted on oxygen or on a dry land and make them be an underwater insect because it goes against their nature. But with this one you can. 3 dots, you can turn it. She can change her own pattern in startling ways. She can exert mastery over simple living things. To more complex creatures, she can exert change, causing the entity to grow or change as desired. So with 3 dots in life, anything that was mentioned in the second one here, bacteria, plants, any plants, invertebrate, algae, or fungus, any of those, you have complete mastery over. You can do pretty much whatever you want with, barring successes and ST approval. And then more complex patterns than that, such as small animals, I believe. They'll have something listed down here in a second. You can then alter them in the same way that you could with number 2, only much more complex with number 3. You can still only alter, but now you can do more complex patterns. By working with her own pattern, the mage can take on new qualities or change old ones, perhaps giving herself unusual features. Grow claws, suspend briefly her need to breathe. She must remain fundamentally human, but she can stretch the limits of her own capabilities and surpass her normal limits of mortal flesh. So you can make your skin harder to cut. You could make your nails be claws. You can turn your teeth into fangs. You could, alter yourself in ways that make you combat ready. Um, the mage can transform them into new shapes, turning a crawfish into a cedar tree, albeit a very, very small one, reweaving a simple bacterium into a deadly killer, and so on. By using pattern transformation in conjunction with other spheres, the mage can create simple living things out of nothingness, or turn non-living matter or forces into living creatures. Yep, when you have forces and life high enough, you can take an electrical force and make it into a creature. Because reality is yours to do with as you please. All kinds of interesting things like that. And I forgot to mention the other two, Alter Simple Creature and Heal Self, but I kind of already discussed that for the level 2 sphere. Level 3 sphere, you've got Better Body, which is what you do. You alter yourself to make yourself better. Claws, gills, increased physical attributes or appearance, body armor, much more. The only limits are imagination and what the mage believes that he can do within his paradigm. Paradigm is a big thing for mage. Anything you want to do, keep an eye on your paradigm because you want to do it within that. Let's see here. The other one is Rip the Man Body, it's called. It's a Euthanatos spell, very popular. You basically rend the patterns of complex life forms. As the mage lacks detailed knowledge of such complex patterns, she cannot unravel patterns quickly. Damage is inflicted on the table on page 209. This damage often manifests as lesions and internal hemorrhaging. So that particular spell is pure attack. You're just, I will cause you damage by tearing at your pattern itself, which can be very effective. So then we got the fourth dot in sphere. Alter complex patterns and transform self. The patterns of all living things are accessible to the adept of life. The mage can not only rewrite her own pattern as she desires, but she can shift and change the patterns of nearly any other creature, including sentient beings. She can heal with a touch, gift someone with great strength, cause wounds, or make a being manifest robust youth and vitality. With self-transformation, the mage can reshape her pattern into any form she desires. She can take on new characteristics, become an entirely different creature of the same rough size and mass, even bolster her natural capabilities beyond human levels. However, such gross manipulations often lead to difficulties. It may take some time to get used to a new animal form. The form itself may not have the capacity to store the mage's human knowledge and intellect. Animal forms often come with instincts as well, and the mage risks losing her identity over time. Keep that in mind. An evil ST will give you enough rope to hang yourself when it comes to magic. So the pattern itself usually has a tendency to grow back into its natural shape too. So a mage who alters her own pattern too radically may suffer injury as her pattern fights against the confining magic. All kinds of trouble with doing big things like that. The more powerful, the more higher level of sphere that you were using, the more trouble you can get into. But there's a lot of things you can do with that. You've got the four dot effect of mutate form, alter the form of any living being, changing its appearance and function, much like the better body effect. So the same sort of thing that you could do with level 3, you can do with level 4 to other people, to other creatures. Verbena, Euthanatos, all pretty good. On the downside, the mage fundamentally is whatever form he assumes. He must spend a point of willpower each day to retain knowledge of his former self, his intellect, and human instincts. He may also need time to adapt to his new form. Certain mind magic can help the mage get around some of these problems, which is fortunate, because if the mage runs out of willpower in his animal form, he completely loses his identity and believes himself to be a normal animal of that sort. See? Trouble. The other 4 dot effect is physiological emotion control. Many virtual adepts believe human beings as biological computers. By inducing certain reactions within the physical body, the adepts can reprogram a person's behavior. Emotions like anger or fear can be induced, causing the body to release adrenaline, while endorphin stimulation can bring on intense pleasure. Even depression has biological causes. This tyranny of the physical body over the mind is one of the many reasons the virtual adepts wish to attain a virtual reality state where that body is left behind and the mind is no longer a slave to the body's body's desires. So, yeah. Level 4, transform self, alter complex patterns. You can manipulate people's emotions by causing their body to generate the proper hormone. You can make them angry, make them feel pleasure, depression, uh, rage, lethargy. You could do all kinds of things. You can jack up their caffeine that their body is naturally producing, and just so much that you can do with life. And then you've got your last one, 5 dots. Transform complex patterns, perfect metamorphosis. All living things become as putty under the sculpting hands of the master of life. Her command of life is flawless, bringing her into perfect harmony with the flow of life energy. She can change all life at her whims, and she can heal or harm as needed or desired. So at level 5, you can do anything when it comes to life. Anything at all. The mage can rework a creature into any form as long as the mass and size remain similar, thus turning a man into a tree or raising up a small dog into a human child. Such transformations are difficult, of course, but spectacular. The mage could reduce a group of enemies into large flopping fish, for instance. She can also smooth out pattern defects and deformities completely, and she can mutate the pattern into any sort of natural or unnatural change. With her total control of her personal pattern, the mage can immunize herself from the rigors of age, disease, hunger, or injury. She can regenerate nearly any damage, although direct pattern damage may take time and effort. Better still, she can surpass many of the usual limits of pattern transformation. She no longer needs to worry about the problems of losing her identity to animal instincts, for example. She can even cause her own life pattern to grow or shrink as needed, allowing her to change her size, which means she can be like, I'm a dragon now, a big old 80-foot dragon, because she just changes her pattern to fit that size. Etc., etc. There's all kinds of other things here. Animal form is one of them, although the mythical Circe's transformation of men into pigs is perhaps one of the better known examples of this power. Rumena and Hermetics still have a history of changing offenders into various sorts of animals. So you can literally poof somebody into an animal and have their human mind remain even in the animal form so that they can learn their lesson. And then perfect metamorphosis, overcoming the problems of pattern transformation. The mage can create a pattern that carries the physical nature of a beast, yet holds as well his own persona and mind. Any shape he desires, can shift or revert, cure her own pattern of undesired changes, maintain a perfect state of health in any living form as she desires. So at level 5, you really have all of life at your fingertips. Everything from the basic single-cell bacteria all the way up to a human being or a werewolf. Because perfect metamorphosis, you could do it. You could turn yourself into a werewolf. Big old 9-foot tall fuzzy machine of death. So yeah, there's a lot you can do with life, a lot of manipulating yourself, manipulating others. As it says here, the only constraint is your imagination and what the ST will allow. Because some STs won't allow certain things, some STs will allow everything. Personally, I think a good ST is going to... See, one of the things that I do in my games when I run them is that players will often come up with ways to use their magic to get around problems, to give themselves an edge or an advantage. And I have no problem with that. I think it is fantastic role-playing, fantastic player interaction. When they come up with cool things to use their magic for, to give them an edge in combat, I absolutely let them have it. But I also think about what they're doing. I take the time. I may not even usually do it that session that it comes out, but I'll think about it in the days between sessions, and I'll think about what they've used their spheres for, what it is that they have actually done in manipulating reality. And I'll ask myself, is there a downside to this? Um, One prime example which I can give is with time, time magic, manipulating time and whatnot. Um, because you can do that and give your characters a massive advantage. I'll discuss it more in when I talk about time, but you can give yourself a massive advantage with that manipulation. But as it tends to be in my campaign, I tend to make the ruling of, yeah, you can do that. You can manipulate time, but that's going to take its toll. There are other consequences to to doing this, temporal consequences as well as paradox. Because if you're manipulating time to basically give yourself more time to learn things, then you're going to age, and the world around you isn't going to be aging as fast. So you need to keep that in mind. So that's going to be it for this episode of Character Class, my look at the spheres. Thank you all so much for watching. As always, if you like what I'm doing, please give that like button a tap. Give that subscribe button a tap as well if you haven't already, so you can be kept apprised of when I do new videos. And throw a comment in the comment section. What do you think about the life sphere? What do you use it for? Do you have any house rules that you or your storyteller happens to use in regards to this sphere? Throw those comments in the comment section. I'd love to get a discussion going with people. And until next time, you all take care and keep thinking about them spheres, because the next episode is coming sooner than you think. See you next time.